But like I was telling Rodney, we're gonna go back over the same lesson that we did last week. Because we had, microphone issues and you couldn't hear the recording really good. So, and we touched upon a lot of good stuff, so. So we're just gonna reintegrate it and re-talk about it today. But first, we're gonna open up with a prayer. So I'll say the prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for all of us being here today. We ask that you bring our emotional and mental self into our heart space so that we can receive these messages and be imbalanced with the awareness of what these messages will do for us in our healing process of ourselves. We thank each and every one of us for being here today. And thank you for this beautiful day. And we bless everybody that is in the universe. Amen.
Amen. So I'll play the song now.
Yes.
I was searching, I was looking for meaning. I was wondering, desperately trying only to see I have nothing missing. Who said I have to find who I am? Who said that I am lost to begin with? I am already enough. Everything I need is within me. Each morning when I wake up, I'm grateful for the beauty around me. Life is a gift, I wanna enjoy it. Always proving my worth only destroys it. I am already enough. Everything I need is within me. My motivation can't be validation. I'd always be starving for more affection, the wrong attention, only to feel like I am nothing. Who said I have to find who I am? Who said that I am lost to begin with? I am already enough. Everything I need is within me. Each morning when I wake up, I'm grateful for the beauty around me. Life is a gift, I wanna enjoy it. Always proving my worth only destroys it. I am already enough. Everything
All yours, ShaHaWin.
That's such a beautiful song. And again, I'm going to reiterate that every class that we have, we will have a song that goes with what we are talking about, because music also is a healing point. We can get healed in many ways, but music heals your soul too. And I would like y'all to really check out the person that sings this video, because it's called Fearless Souls. They have very good videos, and we'll probably use several of their videos during the time to touch on what we're talking about, because we are enough. We don't get to hear that a lot, and we don't even say that to ourselves. We're enough. We're always, because we've been conditioned to prove that we have to do something better, but you don't, because you're enough. You're standing in God's spotlight. We're all in the spotlight together. We don't have to fight for it. That's our birthright. You shine, let your light shine. That's why that song is, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." Well, how often do you let your light shine? You are in the spotlight. We don't have to fight. Just stand in your light. And it is enough. We are enough. And that's something we have to realize. We are enough and go forward. So again, we're going to talk about the two wolves. And I guess I need to bring some Kleenexes because we're all crying over here. Because it is, it touches you deep in your soul. Music is such a great way to heal people. And a lot of people don't realize that. They just think it's just music. But when you gravitate to a song, the reason why you're gravitating to it is because there's something within that song that touches you, that makes you want to heal yourself. And when you become aware of that, because awareness is the key, you're going to start healing. So today, again, we're going to talk about the two wolves. And Colleen and Leo's already heard the story of the two wolves. Bill, do you know the story of the two wolves? Okay, Bill does not. We all know the story of the two wolves. So I'm going to reiterate. The story of the two wolves is a Cherokee story that they tell the children. And what it's based on is, it is really based on your emotional self and your mental self and how it fights within you. So the story is about a grandfather talking to his grandson, talking about two wolves that live inside of us. And the story goes that there's a battle always going on within us, between these two wolves. One's good, one's bad. Okay, we call it shadow and spirit in the native world. In the other world, it's called good and bad. It's called the carnal mind. In the church is the conscious mind. But everybody reflects to it, and it's the same thing. They just have a different name for it. The yin and the yang. In Hindu, it's the yin and the yang, and how to balance it. So the battle of the two wolves, one is evil. And the grandfather and the grandson talk about it. The evil one is always angry. He's always envy. He's always jealous. He's always got sorrow and regret, greed. He's very arrogant, prideful. And he has self-pity because he's a great victim of what's going on around him. A lot of guilt, and of course, resentment. He feels like inferiority, not good enough, self-worth. Where the song plays in that we just played. You are already enough. You are worthy of all things. And when you believe that, you will realize that you are, because you're standing in the light. Okay. The bad wolf lies, has false pride, feels better, superiority. How many people do you know that has superiority? And of course, your shadow is your ego. And your ego is edging God out. That's what I said, it edges God out. Well, it takes the spirit completely out of the equation. Okay? Then you have the good wolf, and the good wolf is peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, compassion, empathy, generosity, standing in your truth and having faith and believing. So at the end of this story, the grandfather, tells the story to the grandson, and the grandson asks him, well, grandfather, which one of these wolves win the fight? And the grandfather says, the one you feed. Okay, so what that means is the one you feed. What does that mean? This is where people don't understand. Okay, to feed our bodies, eat food. We eat food, that's how we nourish our bodies. But our mental and our emotional self, guess what it eats? It doesn't eat food, it eats energy. And so the two wolf stories is talking about the energy and how it comes in. When you have, on your emotional level, your energy is actually a language that comes through you. A lot of people have never been taught this. It's a language. But what happens is immediately you feel like if you pinch yourself, you're going to go, oh, that hurts, because it connects to something that you can relate to. Okay, and go, oh, I'm hurting. Well, the minute you go to hurting, guess what energy that is? That's not the good wolf. But that's how your body responds, because nobody has taught you that this is an energy that's coming through you. It's a language. And so the reason why we're having these classes and starting these classes like this is so that we can start getting it out to other people that this is very important to understand. It's a language coming through you, and however you deal with it is what you're going to get back. And you have to have the awareness to balance it. Now, the way you balance it, I was showing everybody the other day, there's a part inside your heart that is your safety spot. Do you know how to get to it, Bill? Okay. We all know how to get to it. So let's practice it right now. You take your finger, put it right here, and you run it all the way down to your heart. And then when you get to your heart, you're going to feel this little, it might be a little tiny space. It could be a big space in you. And hold it there. I want you to feel that spot and tell me what you feel. Because you will have an emotion, and that will tell you that you're in that spot. Mine is serenity, calmness. Come on, Bill. Keep doing it. You haven't got there yet. Just keep doing it. It's in you. It could be just a little spot of warmth. Stop right there. You're going too far. Go up. Stop right there. And you'll feel a little spot of warmth, of peace. And when you find that spot, take in a deep breath. Take in deep breath. Blow it out. Take in another deep breath and blow it out, and you will feel that expand within you. This is where your safety, I know, Bill, if you can't feel it, let me help you. That's because you've got a lot, you've got a lot going on. So go down and feel right there. And I'm going to help you where you'll feel ease and you'll feel the warmth. Let me know when you feel it. You feel that little tingle? What do you feel? Explain it. You feel nothing. Okay, so repeat after me. I am worthy of all things. I ask Creator to come into my heart and to forgive me for being so cold-hearted and remove all these blocks so that I can feel my sacred space in my temple. So I can feel my sacred temple. And what do you feel now? Okay, I want you to hold that spot because that's where you're going to be safe. Okay, when you find that spot, it takes a little bit to get in it because of being unbalanced. But when you start feeling that spot, you can take yourself there anytime you want to, and it's going to help you heal. So I want you to hold on to that spot and just feel it so you'll recognize that spot.
For me, it was calmness.
Yes, it will bring calmness and peace to you when you're not feeling real good. And it brings worthiness to you because you're worthy of God's love. You are worthy, each and every one of us are worthy. Okay, so we've all centered into our little heart. Okay, so we're going to go back to talking about the energy. Okay, this is energy that comes through your body. There's two types of energy, male and female, that come into your body. Comes into everybody's body. One is called ego and shadow. The other one is called spirit or consciousness, God's light. They intertwine, Bill, like snakes, but they never cross their paths. This energy never cross paths until it gets to that heart and right here. That's where the balance comes in. So you have to learn how to balance those emotions. Like I was saying last week, we've been conditioned. Each and every single one of us has been conditioned to feel stuff, especially when we went to school. We were conditioned to compete and to be the winner, because if you didn't win, you were the loser. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there's no such thing as winning and losing. We're all in the spotlight together. That's what people don't understand. We're all in the spotlight together, but we've been conditioned that we have to be better. We're either going to be the loser or we're going to be the winner. But it comes back down to your awareness when you come into your spot to understand that that is the bad wolf that you're feeding. It's eating energy. And you have a switch right here in your heart that you can flip back over and start feeding your good wolf, which will start bringing balance into your life. And it's very hard because we've been conditioned to always feed the shadow. And back to what I was saying last week, the shadow is very good. It takes a lot of awareness to see yourself in your shadow self. It takes a lot of work, and you have to be willing to really work on yourself, because nobody can do this type of work but you. We always look for the answers on the outside. Like I was telling you last week, you can go get direction from somebody on the outside, but they cannot fix your problem, because the problem lies within you. And the only person that can get into you is yourself. And that's where that balance comes. And when you start getting that balance, you start working on yourself, don't you? And Bill, I'd really like to see you do this, because I think it would help you a lot. I mean, Colleen and Leo have been walking, and listening and doing classes with me for over 3 years. Okay, so have you,
That's tremendous.
I mean, can't you see the difference in them?
Yeah.
Well, that's why. Because it's not because I did anything, it's because they started working on themselves, because you've got to work on yourself to change. You're the only one that can change the way you feel inside, okay? And, but you have to know where the switch is. Okay, well, that switch is what I just showed you, that sacred temple part. That's your switch. And when you get angry, then you're feeding the wrong wolf. It's okay to get angry. I mean, we're human. It's okay to have these emotions, but it's not okay to stay in the emotions of it. You have to switch it. If not, you will never be able to heal yourself. And what will happen is you'll end up having to repeat it in another lifetime. You'll have to come back and repeat the same stuff over and over until you learn it, because this is our school. We're in school right now, and people don't realize it. And that's okay, they don't realize it, because some people will deny it. Some people will go, no, we're not. Okay, well, I know you got to go. I hope you come back to see us again. And see, this is how it works too, is when you're not ready, you can't stay. The energy will move you away. And that's okay too. Bill will be back another day when he's feeling better.
Take care, Bill.
Yeah, thank you. See you Thursday.
So back to this is a good example. Because I am teaching, I can get very upset that Bill left, right? But I'm not, because I understand what's going on. When you have these energies hitting you and you don't have no control over them, like-minded energy is going to attract like-minded energy. And we're on a high vibrational energy pattern right now, because, yes, Robbie, you're holding your hand up.
I think that it showed your story in physical reality. We know which voice has dominion in this situation.
Correct. And so you have to, if you're not willing to work on yourself, then you won't be in this class. And I've understood this. I've understood this for a long time. So I don't expect to have a big classroom and that's okay. But because I know Creator is gonna place the people here in the classroom that are ready for the lessons. When they're ready is the only time that they can hear the message. When they can't hear the message, when they can't feel their sacredness, then they have a lot of work to do on themselves. And all we can do to help them is pray that they get into awareness. So we will keep Bill in prayer, which me and Colleen have been keeping Bill in prayer for over 3 years. And we've tried to help him through a lot of stuff. And he'll be back. He was just not feeling real good today. And that's what people don't understand is the longer you stay in the wolf of anger, envy, jealousy, hurt, and pain, it's gonna take you down. It's taking you down into a dark pit. We talked about this in our last session. And sometimes we cannot get into that dark pit to pull them people out. They have to come into the light, into the awareness, but they have to do the work. It's not just going to be gifted to them, you know, and a lot of people think that if they just go to a class that they're going to be gifted healing and stuff. That's not how it works. The healing comes from working on yourself and believing that you are worthy of all things and that God loves you enough that you are standing in his spotlight because you are his child. Each and every one of us is his child. Bill is his child. So why get mad that he leaves? You can't, because that's just where he's at in his learning process. It's just like a thief. It's like a killer. It's kind of like what we were talking about Putin, the last subject, Elizabeth. It's the same thing. Each one of us is on different levels of understanding and learning. And until you can understand that there's an energy language coming through you on your emotional level and it's energy, only then will you be able to fix it. If not, you're going to continue to feed it. And it's going to take you down to the very end. That's the depths of hell or the depths to death. And you have to make that decision within inside yourself. Hey, I don't want to live like this anymore. And when you finally make that decision for yourself, things will start changing for you. But until then, you can only hope and pray that they will come in. Bill come in and sit and listened enough so that he could get a little help for himself if he goes home and thinks about it. But he already had a wall up. And that's how the shadow self does. It puts a wall up, you know, of offense. This isn't me. I don't need to learn this stuff. I already know this stuff. Why should I be here? You know, I had a lady, and I love her to death. Okay. She walked with me for 14 years. She listened to me tell the story about the two wolves thousands of times. And we talked more, you know, about many other things. Like we're going to get into stinking thinking in one of our programs we're going to have, which we're kind of in stinking thinking right now, you know, but we're going to really dip into the stinking thinking. But she traveled around with me for 14 years, followed me everywhere, moved with me to different states. And her response is, when I was telling her, oh, I know that. Oh, yes, I know that. And finally, I just had to ask her, I said, I know you know that, but when are you going to start doing it? You know, you can know a lot of things, but this is how energy works. Energy cannot and will not move until you have the thought, have an action, which is movement. So like I'm talking right now with my thoughts, The movement is it's coming out of my mouth in language so that you can understand, which is creating an action, which is going to have a reaction. And that's how energy moves. And until you do those three things, you can't move energy. And a lot of people get stuck because a lot of people will get like in their stubbornness, you know, or not feeling good and have to leave. And what it is that's a blockage, just an energy blockage that can only be removed when you work on yourself and you have somebody that knows how to help remove that energy blockage off of you so that you can understand it. The two wolves have been in our lives our whole lives, and the bad wolf can eat off of positive energy. A lot of people don't realize that that is actually why there's such a battle going on inside each one of us, is because when you stop feeding the shadow self, it starts fighting harder to survive because it thinks it's starving to death because it's not eating the energy that it used to eat. And it's never ate off of positive energy, so it thinks it's going to die. But the more that you feed it positive energy, because it will eventually eat positive energy, it will become a partner to you. And that's something that's very important for us to discuss too, because we have been taught to push the bad part of ourselves away. We discussed this in last week's class. That's all your skeletons in your closet. Well, you need to start pulling out all those skeletons and looking at them, and not being ashamed of them, but forgive yourself for being like that. But you're not like that anymore. You're a totally different person today because you're learning how to balance those two wolves. And when are you going to really truly know if you're balanced or not? Because this is a good question that was brought up to me, so I'm going to answer it. First off, you got to understand there's two sides. There's a scale, and if you'll look at the scale that they use, a lawyer, you know, or the court uses a scale to weigh the ups and downs. Okay, well, how do you know if you're really truly balanced in yourself? Because if you're standing on one side of the scale, let's just say you're in the good wolf all the time, then you're going to be unbalanced. If you're in the bad wolf all the time, you're going to be unbalanced. So how do you balance that scale? Well, the very first thing you need to know is, what part of the scale are you? Where are you at on the scale? Are you this smart? Are you spiritual? Or are you the egoic side? We're both. So you bring the scale together and you realize that you're the pointer that sits on that scale. And if you realize you're the pointer, then your scale will stay balanced, because you realize you don't have to get on either side to be on the path properly. All you need is awareness that of being in a positive manner and staying out of the negative. But what will happen, it will bring the bad wolf into a relationship with you, just like you would have a relationship with a female or a male, because it's male and female energy. So it will come together in a relationship and will start working together, and your male side of yourself will start actually eating energy off of your spiritual side, and will start becoming your warrior, which you will only see come out when you stand in the truth and that you're bringing knowledge to people. But until you get into that balance with your male and female side of yourself, you will have this war going on in yourself with these two wolves. Okay, because the shadow one will think it's starving to death, because like I told you last week, your shadow side of your wolf eats probably 3 spreads of humongous energy and food before your feet ever hit the ground out of bed in the morning time. And until you become aware of that, there's no way to stop it. But like I said, it was taught when you were 3 months old or 4 months old, the very first time you picked up something and said, mine, is when your shadow self ate. And because it ate off of ownership instead of freedom, spirit is freedom. That was the only type of energy it knew to feed off. So that was the energy that it learned how to feed off of. And it kept getting built and built and built through your emotional self. Going through school, you know, competition, or you're not good, or you get bullied. That's where all of that comes from. And but back to the balancing of it, when you learn, when you become aware that you can balance it, and like I said, it eats before your feet even hits the ground. You're looking at the clock, and as soon as you see you have 30 or 40 minutes, you can snooze, you're gonna hit the snooze because you're still tired. Okay, but if you're late, guess what? You're gonna jump up, you're gonna jump in the shower, but while you're in the shower, your shadow side is going to tell you exactly what you're gonna do for the whole day. And it might also go into the next day of what you're going to do. And guess what? If you do not catch that in awareness, that is how your day is gonna be. Have you ever noticed that if you stump your toe when you get up out of bed, the very first thing that comes out of your mouth is, oh, I'm gonna have a bad day today because I stubbed my toe? And guess what? You usually have a bad day. Because you're not in awareness of that, the shadow side feeding. It's quite interesting, and only you can get in the depth of your own shadow self. Nobody can show you how to do it. But that's where you bring all your skeletons out of the closet, you know, and not be ashamed to tell somebody, because you'll have a lot of people. You know, there's a lot of bulliers, there's a lot of trolls out there, you know, on the internet, and they don't care how you feel. But guess what? Guess what wolf they're feeding? And I'm not going to say it, you know. I just want you to think about what wolf are they feeding? But that's how they're learning how to get their energy. There is energy vampires, and they will steal your energy. And we will talk about that in another episode, in another series about energy vampires and how to protect yourself from people stealing your energy. But how many times have y'all been in a group of people and you chose to go there? You thought you were gonna have a lot of fun, but as soon as you left, you were so tired you had to lay down because you went, oh my goodness, I'm so tired. I don't know why I'm so tired. But when you got home, you had to lay down and go to sleep because you were just totally exhausted. Well, what happened is there was somebody in that group that just took all your energy, stole it right away from you, sucked it all out. And until you become aware in your own awareness that that's what's taking place, there's no way that you can fill your energy up. Because see, we get filled up through Creator all day long, standing in the sun, being in awareness, being in your spiritual self fills you up with energy. But you can lose that energy just like that. Like I told you a story about how quick you can become unbalanced. The last season thing about when I wanted to eat breakfast, and I pulled up in McDonald's and there was a line of people, and then next door was Hardee's, so I swapped over there to Hardee's, the same thing, and then I come back out and I was mad because I couldn't get a biscuit because I was hungry. I want this, I need this, and guess what? I realized, took me a few minutes as I was going down the road, that was my shadow self. And so I went down the road, and it was a funny sight to see. I'm sure people were going, what is that woman doing in that car over there? But as soon as I found that spot in me, I had a little talk with myself, and I said, I talked to my little one. I call it my little one. And I call it a little temple. I'm in my temple of God. That's where God resides at in each one of us. And I said, we're not starving to death. We're going to eat. Why are you so mad? And as soon as, I had that little talk, it switched that switch back where I become back into my spiritual self. And I was good to go. But like I was telling you, this takes practice. This is how you become the hollow bone. And we've all talked about the hollow bone, so I really don't have to explain it. But there might be somebody that will listen to this later that doesn't understand what the hollow bone is. So I'll explain just a little bit about the hollow bone. When you become a servant for God, you will remove your whole egoic self or your shadow self out of the way so that God can work through you to help others. And that's the best way that I can describe a hollow bone. And you won't do anything to make yourself look better than anybody else, because we're all the same. I'm you and you are me. And when you begin to realize that everything connects in the world, even the grass, the trees, you will be kind and considerate to even the ant that is walking on the ground, and you will look for that ant. But what's really funny about that is when you do become really aware, you won't have to look for the ant, because before you set your foot down, that animal will let you know it's there by its vibration. And remember how I told you that your energy comes through your emotional self as an energy. It brings in a vibration with it. And when you start learning what that vibration is, you're going to know there's something underneath your foot you're fixing to step on that's alive. And guess what? You won't step on it. My daddy had many tricks. And people always wondered how my daddy did it. But I don't believe he did anything special. I just think he was more connected and in awareness of himself. And that's what I want to help teach people, is how to become more aware, because the more awareness you become, the better you will be able to see things. And, y'all all know I had a heart attack last April. And there's a lot of people that know me, I'm very well known, but I was very spiritual. And we're going to go back to the scales. Okay. I was very spiritual. You'd never hear me cuss, because that's a no-no. You don't do that if you're spiritual. Well, I learned after having my heart attack that I was so unbalanced, because I stayed so spiritual all the time, that I had totally not even recognized my physical self. I had left that part undone. So when I had my heart attack, it had to bring me back into reality to make me realize that I am human and I have human needs. And it's okay sometimes to be mad, to have feelings, but it's not okay to stay in them. That's the difference. That's the awareness. And that was quite a big lesson for me to understand. And my mama played a big part about this, and Elizabeth knows this. I don't know, Rodney, if you know this, but when I lived in New Mexico, after my mama passed away, she came in my dream. And she scared me to death. I mean, I was in my dream, in my bed, in my dream, and she come in the doorway, and she had a staff, and she kept hitting the staff on the ground, and every time the staff hit, it would go dong. And so I decided, because she scared me so bad, that I'd just cover my head up in the bed, you know, and she would leave. She didn't leave. Her staff went 2 more times, so it done 3 times, and then she whipped the covers off of me. And all I remember about the dreams was she kept telling me the floodwaters were coming, the floodwaters were coming, and I woke up. Well, what I didn't realize, because she had scared me so bad, is I had called one of my girlfriends right after I woke up, and I said, "Can you write this down for me? Because I'm so shaken that I cannot write this down." So she wrote down my whole dream. And look, we forgot about it. She came to see me after my heart attack, and as she was leaving the pack to come to my house, she found the notebook that she had wrote that dream down in. And she brought it to me. She says, "I think you need to read this." And so I'm going to kind of do a cliffhanger on y'all, and next week you'll get to hear what my mama wrote about it. But it was about the tree and the water of life and the flood waters. I'll bring it and read it next week to y'all. But the flood waters was the water that goes around the roots of the tree. And her main message is to learn how to be the tree and stop drowning in the waters of life, because you are not the root. You are the tree, so you have to stand. And so that brought a lot of awareness to me, because all of us are in the water drowning right now in our emotional self, in our emotions. And so learning about the 2 wolves and learning how to balance yourself better is going to bring you up out of those emotional waters, so that you can stand like a tree and be more aware and bring more health to you instead of sickness. And I believe that's how I'm going to end this program, and we're going to go into questions, because I think that's a good place to end. But next week, when I come, I will bring the thing about the dream and read it to y'all, because it's quite interesting. And each one of us, in our endeavors of learning how to balance ourselves, have to work really hard, to understand what's going on with ourselves. And I'm not any different. Can I teach it? Yes. I only teach it because I've been through it. It's not because I want fame and glory that I'm a great teacher, because I'm the student just as much as I am the teacher, because I learn as I go, as a lot of my friends know, especially with this thing when I had my heart attack. I would have never thought I was so unbalanced, but I was very unbalanced, because I had to bring my physical self into balance, because I had just let it go, because I thought I could just be spiritual, and I didn't need that part. But you want to understand that everything connects together. That's why everything is connected. And when you realize that everything is connected, you'll be able to balance better within everything. And that's where we'll end that at. So whoever wants to start first with their questions, let's get to it.
I have an observation.
Okay. Observations are good too.
When you were working with Bill, you did many things that I don't think he's ever you did an opening prayer for him. You brought him to Creator, and you brought Creator into his heart. You brought him to a heart-centered emotional state. And I remember when I first started this journey, when I would enter that space, I would start crying uncontrollably because of the love and the pure joy that I would feel. And for a man, because we're often taught to stuff those feelings.
Correct.
Be a man, don't cry, don't do this. So I think you aroused some very powerful emotions, and you helped him to see that there are two sides and you don't have to live. And that brings me to the other point that you and also Chief Phil Lane Jr., he speaks about it as being bad medicine. So every word, thought, action, and deed is feeding one of the wolves. So any bad thoughts, any bad words feeds that bad wolf.
Correct.
So you've helped to teach me, it's like every step, every word, every thought has repercussions.
Oh yeah, everything has a reaction.
Yeah, affects the ripple, and then that ripple is felt by other people too. So it's very beautiful, ShaHaWin. Thank you so very much.
Well, I knew when he came in here that he was really sad, and he cried during the song, and it made me realize that I need Kleenexes here in the classroom, because that's going to happen. And I am able to calm that down where people can get a healing. It's not me, it's the spirit, it's Creator doing it through me, because I've moved myself and become the hollow bone. But he just wasn't ready for that. But he got what he needed for today. And that's a good thing. And we just pray that he comes back. And he will. It's a beginning. And it's a good thing. We just all say prayers for him.
Big step.
Because it was a big step. It was really a big step for him to be here today. So.
Yeah, the first step is the hardest.
Did you hear Colleen? The first step is the hardest. I think there's a song like that. All right, Leo, I know you have something to say over there.
I woke up this morning and I was in a fog, and it took me forever, and I'm still in that fog a little bit. And what's going on?
Are you asking me what's going on?
Well, I centered myself this morning in here, and it did help. It did help. But gosh, even a half pot of coffee didn't take care of it. Just do some more.
Did you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay.
Yes. But I'm fine now. But gosh, a lot of times, I slept real hard last night, and it seemed like it took forever to get going. I've done this before too.
Yeah. Well, that could be many things. We've discussed that.
Yeah.
You can have medical issues that can cause you to not be able to get up in the morning. We know about these things, don't we, Elizabeth? And I'm sure Rodney's experienced it. Thyroid problems, boy. If you don't have the right
Yes.
vitamin D and iodine in your body, if you have thyroidism, that is going to cause you not to be able to get up and motivate yourself in the morning. And one of the biggest things that's going on right now with a lot of people is vitamin D3 deficiency. Okay, and that came along with the mask mandates and not being able to get out in the sun properly like we were supposed to, you know, to get it, because you get it from the sun. But so that kind of plays into what I was saying. We cannot forget about our physical self. If we have something physical going on that needs our attention, then we need to become, you know, pay attention to it and become an awareness of what is the best avenue to do, you know, to make ourselves do better. His is getting motivated in the morning time. I'm the same way. Since my heart attack, I'm getting better, but it takes like 2 to 3 hours for me to be able to even get up and start walking around because I feel like I'm in slow motion. But I will let you know, on a universal energy pattern level right now that we are on, we are all walking through sludge. And that's the best way I can tell you. We are walking through a lot of sludge, and this sludge has been created by our thoughts and what we have spit out of our mouths. Has to do with what's going on in Ukraine, has to do with COVID still, has to do with all the riots. You know, it's back to what I said last week. If you spit it out of your mouth, there's a magic genie up there. And I call it a magic genie. The universal energy pattern does not I'm trying to pick the right word out because there's many words you can use. Like-minded energy attracts like-minded energy. So it does not look at where this energy is coming from. It's just attaching to the energy and giving you back what you're asking for. Okay, if that makes any sense. So during the time that they were having the Floyd marches and stuff, this bothered me really bad, so I did a lot of prayers of trying to cancel out what was coming out of people's mouth because they were saying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And guess what happened? COVID hit and we couldn't breathe. Okay, and if you start becoming aware of stuff like that, over in Ukraine right now, there's so many people starving. There's people in, it's so sad because they're in survival mode. They become homeless. And all of this is weighing on millions of people in this world right now. And they're spitting that out of their mouths. And that is the energy that we're feeling that's weighing us down when we're walking. And only people that are in awareness and have been, you know, really working on themselves in balance can understand that that's what that is. And this is your answer. So when you realize that it is not your body that is putting out that energy, then you can do a prayer when you're doing your balancing for the energy of the universal energy pattern not to affect you and release off of your auric field so that you can walk through your day better instead of in a sluggish way. Does that make sense?
I think there's a possibility that Leo's shadow self didn't want him to get up and be present in your teachings either because you bring the light, ShaHaWin.
Ooh.
Ouch! Yeah, you're probably right there.
It's not a conscious decision, but it's that little devil on our shoulder that said, no, sleep in, do whatever. But the, other side wins out. Thank goodness.
Well, actually calling one out. She was getting up, so I had to get up.
But yes, you're correct. There are times when we just don't want to do stuff. But you'll realize that if you go forward, even though you're not feeling good that day, and you can go forward, your day's going to be so much better just because you took that action.
Yeah.
And it created a different reaction. But that was funny. I'm going to have to reintegrate on what you said, Rodney, to Leo, because it kind of shocked you. So you kind of shocked him because Leo is really good about, working on himself. And we all are. Everybody that's in this meeting right now, in this program right now, we have worked really hard to get to where we're at within our, our own balance. So when you said that to him, immediately, a wall came up going, oh no, don't do that. Which is an automatic response before we even really balance ourselves. That wall's already went up before we even have a response to it. And then you have to realize, wow, I have a wall up, I need to take it down, but that's how quick our emotional self will respond with an action before we actually spit it out of our mouth. And that is something that we have to become aware of too, because we've just been programmed that way.
Yeah.
And look, we're not young chickadees, are we? Or roosters. We're on up there in age. So we've got many years of this conditioning that has took place in our lives that we have to undo and look at and say, and choose for ourselves, this is the weeding out of your garden. Do I still want to do it this way? And that's happening all over the world today. A lot of people are going, I don't want to live like this anymore. And they're weeding their garden out, There's a lot of people looking for land. They want to get out of the big cities, and that's part of becoming aware and becoming conscious of how you're feeling. Our feelings are very important.
So that's, by the way, is exactly what happened this morning. Is I really didn't want to come. I'd get out of bed. I didn't really want to come here.
All right, Rodney, you hit it right on the head. Did you hear that?
I did.
So how do you feel now?
I
Since
feel
you've been
just
here?
fine. I'm just fine. I'm happy to be here.
That's funny.
You fooled me. I automatically think that you're going, this is it, so I follow suit.
That's funny. So can you elaborate how you're feeling about that? Just now, if you can, be in awareness that, yeah, that's really how I felt. What emotion?
I'm happy that I know what's going on.
Okay. Is it bringing up any other emotions?
I can think of it.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It's not bringing up embarrassment or anything like that.
No.
Okay, well, see, that's good. And because see, when you become aware of that, it can bring guilt to you, it can bring shame to you. And especially when you get into guilt, That's one of those skeletons in your closet you just want to push back in the closet because you don't really want to deal with it at the time. Guilt is pretty strong emotion to deal with. So you handle that very well.
Yeah, sure do.
How about you, Elizabeth? You got any questions?
I do. I just was thinking about that black wolf, and when you see someone else stepping into their black wolf in their shadow, and we react to that rather than respond to that. It's an automatic reaction, and then we are put into our shadow self because of that emotion that we feel from their shadow. So we can realize that, but it's really hard to step out of that and choose to be okay with where they're at, right?
Yes.
I mean, sometimes it's really hard to do that, and it really hurts. It really hurts to have to step away.
Yes. Because sometimes you'll step away from the ones that you love the most, which is your family.
Right.
You know, but that's such a good question because a lot of us will be running into that quite a lot. But I'll tell you something that I did. Okay, the more you become aware and in your own awareness, the more that you will try not to stay away from that person and understand that that's where they're at in their process. Because if you remove yourself from that, then they might not have a chance to see that it can be done in a different way because you've removed the light from that. You know,
So do we confront them then?
not necessarily because
Or how do we, I mean, is it our responsibility to show them that this is what's happening?
no. I mean, you can,
But that's the response. That's the reaction.
yeah, especially if it's your children or your family members, because you want them to be where you're at, but you do not have to say anything because most of the time, the way people are going to change is by watching your walk, not by what's coming out of your mouth. But I will tell you what some of the things that I'm experiencing right now, like, you know, Brandy and my grandbaby, they're going through a rough time. Okay. And I'm having trouble with my eyesight, as some of y'all know. So I don't like driving too much because, you know, I want to be careful and not be in an accident or anything like that. So Brandy needed diapers at the hospital. And I really did not want to have to drive all the way to the hospital by myself. So, of course, Lisa's at home, you know. And so I was like, oh, she'll take me up there. Well, when I called, she was still in the bed, you know, and it was 11 o'clock. Now, but we all understand what Lisa does. She works hard, and so she deserves to sleep. But because I was in this mode of getting this stuff to Brandy, which would be ego in a lot of ways, I was really rough with Lisa on the phone, and she had just woke up, and I slammed bastard, you know, I slammed her with my own emotional, what are you doing still in the bed? It's 11 o'clock, you know. And then I knew, you know, because it takes her like an hour or so to get centered where you can even talk to her. So I knew that there was no way I could talk to her for about 2 hours. So I just said, well, you just go back to sleep and I'll call you later, and I hung up the phone. But that was my own response, and I was angry because I couldn't talk to her. But that was egoic, and I knew it. I knew it immediately. So what I did is I waited about 30 minutes because I knew she was going to get a cup of coffee. And I walked over to her house and I apologized to her because I knew I was in the wrong. Okay, and so when it comes to your family members, you can do it like that. You can address it. Because I explained to her what was going on and how I felt about everything. And I told her, I said, I was in my shadow self and I'm sorry. I said, but I'm human and I'm learning how to be in, that's part of me learning to be in my physical self, which I never had done until I had a heart attack. So I'm playing a lot of catch up, but I'm also apologizing as I go. And I think in the long run that is helping her realize by just watching how I react instead of, I could have reacted really bombardingly and say, never mind. And I could have got in my car all mad and I could have drove almost an hour away, to take the diapers and stuff to Brandy and just been in a bad mood all day until I realized, And sometimes you don't realize it that quickly. You can stay in it all day. You can stay in it a month before you realize that you're out of whack. It just really depends on how how you are with yourself when the minute you get up in the morning, like Leo, you have got to address Creator. You have to address yourself, and you have to try to balance yourself, or your day is not going to go too well, because that gives the other energy an energy opening to just bombard you, and you'll be knocked over with a tsunami wave of stuff, of energy, that you weren't expecting to happen to you. I hope that kind of helped answer the question. In a big group, I would not say anything to the group. I would probably remove myself from it. And if I was asked by somebody how come I didn't stay, then I would explain to them, in the proper way, without judgment, which is really hard to do too, why I left. But learning to walk a good path sometimes becomes a very lonely path to begin with, because the ones that you truly, truly loved won't want to be on that path with you. They don't want to change. And that hurts you, but you have to realize too, inside that hurt, you have to look deeper to make sure that is not a greedy choice that you're making, or anything that falls on the shadow side that keeps you in the darkness.
Okay. Yeah.
You have to go through.
It's still a choice, yeah. I keep thinking of the 4 agreements, keeps popping up. Don't assume. Yeah, that's my favorite book.
It just so happens I have it in my.
Oh, you just happen to have that. Thank you.
Yes, this is
We're on the same line again.
This is a great book to read. It will bring you great knowledge to help yourself. And like last week, I was telling you the books that you could read, Battlefields of the Mind by Joyce Myers, and then Eckhart Tolle too.
Yeah.
Those are great, but yes, this one is excellent book to read. But it's too funny that I had it in my.
Yeah, because it's been on my mind today, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a great one for assuming what everybody else is thinking or feeling. So I have to remind myself, quit doing that, or assume that I know what they're thinking, or assume that maybe I'm always assuming I'm the problem.
oh, you're not worthy enough.
I don't know, but I have a bad habit of that, it's like, well, it must be my fault that they turned away or that they don't like me anymore or whatever.
Yeah, so you're beating yourself up
Because then I didn't do anything.
see, that's how
I'm a great one for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that's how the shadow works, because the shadow is gonna make you feel inferior, unworthy, belittle you,
Yes.
you're not good
All
enough.
of the above. Yeah.
Yeah, and see, that was part of the programming that we actually got. We got that from our parents, and we got that from going to school when we had to compete, in dodgeball, in the spelling bees, all of that taught us we weren't good enough.
My toy, not yours. Yeah. Yeah.
When now we need to correct that with the children, and they won't have that problem like we did.
It's hard to get through that reaction because sometimes that's our first go-to is to react to someone, and you want to tell them how you feel about it. You want them to know, you know?
Because yes, but let me tell you, it's okay to do that. Okay, but it's not okay to stay in it.
I think there's a really fine line there.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's a line, because you might cuss somebody out because you're in reaction.
React, yep.
But the minute that you become aware, okay, the minute that you become aware that you're in your shadow self, then you need to go immediately back to that person and apologize to fix it. Because that is what you call a karmatic knot. And guess what? If you unfix it, you won't have to experience it again. Because you've learned. And that's the only way you do it. But you have to go back and you have to apologize to that person, whether it hurts your feelings or not. But if it's going to hurt your feelings because you're going to go back and apologize to that person because you're wrong, then you're still in your egoic self and haven't looked deep enough to see, why do I feel hurt about this? Because you should actually feel great and a lot better that you're acknowledging that you're not perfect. Because none of us are perfect. We will never be.
Right.
There wasn't a perfect person on this earth other than Jesus. And I mean, really, what is perfect? Because if you look at Jesus's life, Jesus cried. Jesus pitched a fit and turned over all the tables in the tabernacle because they were selling all the stuff. He had all the same emotions as we did. So really, if you look at the word perfect, what does that mean? Because
We're perfect in our humanness.
we're all human and we all have emotions, but the way to go about it is to understand that there is a proper way to deal with those emotions and communicate them out to the person in the proper way. And
I'm finding that I can be mentally aware that I am not in the right place. I'm aware of it. But how do I even say this? I'm just mentally aware that it's taking me a while to get my emotions to understand that I don't need to be there.
I understand what you're saying.
I realize it up here, but my heart's not there yet.
Yes, and that's where
That's the balance.
that's the balance.
And then when you come into balance, then you're okay that whatever that situation was, that's the way it is. You're not going to change it.
No,
Even if you go tell them off, or even if you say what you feel about it, you're not really going to change it unless they change it.
yes, and see, also you have to forgive yourself of the type of feelings that you're having because you're feeling angry, you're feeling pissed off, you're feeling, like you got cheated, all
Right.
those thoughts, all these feelings are coming, and if you look at it, that's all coming from the shadow self, which is trying to pull you into that energy vibration that you don't want to be.
Right.
So like a trap too. But we have been conditioned to fall into that trap. So what I think is really great is that you're becoming aware of that, which shows that you're really fixing to come into a great balance with inside yourself because you're aware in your mental self that you are doing that. You just haven't connected all the parts yet.
Well, it's like you keep having to tell yourself that till you believe it. You know?
Really, it's not like that because what it is it's a pattern. And so
Yeah.
we all are in a pattern and you're making a new pattern for yourself. So the more you do that pattern, the more that pattern is gonna start working faster for you. But you gotta start somewhere where all this shadow pattern has been here for decades because we've been conditioned in it. But this balancing, you're just now making that pattern for yourself to get into that pattern. And look how far you've come because you've already become aware that it's up here in your mental. You just haven't brought it all the way down yet. So you've done a lot of work. You should be very proud of yourself and know that you will get there. Because guess what? It could take a week, it could take a month, it could take a year, but it gets shorter every time you do it. It gets shorter. And what I mean by that is everything is in a circle. And I think me and you talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
And to notice a pattern, the pattern is always going to complete that circle and keep repeating that circle until you change it. And the only way you can change it is through awareness. And when you become aware of that, what will happen is when you get to where you're at the end of that circle, but you can see that's the beginning of the same circle, but you're in awareness, then you'll be able to make the different choice and it'll make a totally different circle, which is actually the infinity. And it'll
Well, it becomes a spiral.
correct.
Yeah.
And once you start doing that, then that's where the balance comes into all of it.
Right. Okay. Okay. I've got a ways to go.
I know it's past 10:30. It didn't freeze. Are you still there?
Yeah, it froze for a second there.
It did freeze. And Rodney left us. So we're gonna be shutting down, but Letitia come in.
I'm sorry.
She was running
My
late.
husband on the road, I was supposed to be here. Tell her, don't drive that guy. So I just kept quiet.
It's okay.
So,
But we're glad you got here. And you can watch this one on, it'll be on YouTube. Yeah. And Rodney, it's past time.
Yeah, slightly.
Would you like to do the closing prayer again? And I hope, I thank each and every one of y'all for being here, and I hope you enjoyed the class, even though it was a repeat of last week, but I think the microphones work good, and we'll know when Rob
A lot better.
turned out really good. So next week we'll probably continue talking about how to recognize the energy patterns. So we'll probably be thinking about stinking thinking. You know, because I think that would be good. So each one, you know, think about something that happens to you for the whole week, and maybe we'll discuss that, you know, and we'll dissect it into what part of the bush was acting up. You know.
So I'll close with a prayer.
Yes, please close with the prayer.
All right. Father Sky, Mother Earth, all our ancestors, all our relatives, we thank you once again for allowing us to step inside this most sacred circle. We thank you for your presence and your wisdom and your teachings that we're able to hear and witness as ShaHaWin spoke, as you spoke through her. We are so very grateful for these lessons, for the wisdom that you're allowing us to learn, that allow us to walk in a way that is pleasing in your sight. We ask you walk closely with us on this day, protect us, guide us in every way, and help us just have that awareness of the decision and to always make the right decision. We thank you, we love you, and with that, I say, aho.
Aho. I love each and every one of y'all, and I'll see you next Tuesday, same time, same place. And Letitia, you didn't see you were gone, Rodney, but Letitia snuck in at the last minute.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
But she's gonna watch it probably off of the
What's,
Zoom.
video. Yeah. So we will see you next week. Much love to all of y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.